This is Introduction to Hebrew, Lesson 14, Verbs, Part 1. The information in this lesson is going to cover pages 129 through 138 of the Basics of Biblical Hebrew Charts.pdf file and pages 52 through 54 of the Charts of Biblical Hebrew workbook. A root is a set of consonants that forms the basis of many related terms. Each Hebrew word consists of a root and a unique set of vowels, prefixes, and suffixes. In the chart below, we see the Hebrew root mem, lamed, kaf, which forms the basis of many different Hebrew words. For example, we see the verb malak, which means to rule, the noun melech, which means a king, and the noun malkut, which means a kingdom. All three of these terms have the Hebrew root mem, lamed, kaf. There are 7 major stems in the Hebrew verbal system. The first stem is called the kal stem, then the nifal stem, the pl stem, the pual stem, and the hifhil stem, the hofal stem, and the hithpael stem. Each one of these stems expresses a different kind of action, such as simple, intensive, or causative. In the examples below, we see the statement, David defeated the Philistines. This is an example of simple action. In the next sentence, however, we see David annihilated the Philistines. This would be an example of intensive action, while the final sentence is God gave success to David. This expresses causative action. Verbs are also either active, passive, or reflexive. In the active voice, the subject does the action of the verb. In the passive voice, however, the subject of the sentence receives the action of the verb. And in the reflexive voice, the subject does and receives the action of the verb. In the first sentence, we see David defeated the Philistines. This is in the active voice. David is the subject, and David is doing the action. In the second sentence, the Philistines were defeated by David. Here, the Philistines receive the action of the verb, which is in the passive voice. And finally, David prepared himself for battle. This is in the reflexive voice. David is doing the action, and he receives the action. The kal stem expresses simple action in the active voice. The nifal stem expresses simple action in the passive voice or in the reflexive voice, depending on the context of the sentence. The pl stem expresses intensive action in the active voice, while the pual stem expresses intensive action in the passive voice. The hithpael stem expresses intensive action in the reflexive voice. The hifhil stem expresses causative action in the active voice, and the hofal stem expresses causative action in the passive voice. The following table describes the unique vowel pattern for each stem. The kal stem exhibits a kametz, pathak stem vowel pattern. Here the Hebrew verb is shama, he heard. Notice that there is a kametz under the first consonant and a pathak under the second consonant. The stem vowel is the vowel that occurs under the second consonant of the Hebrew root. The next stem is the nifal stem, which exhibits a nun, hiric prefix, and a pathak stem vowel. The verb here is nishma, he was heard. Notice the nun hiric prefix before the first root consonant, and the pathak under the mem, which is the stem vowel. The next stem is the pl stem. It exhibits a hiric tsere vowel pattern. The verb here is shiber, he smashed. Notice the hiric under the shin, which is the first root consonant and the tsere under the second root consonant. The next stem is the pual stem. It exhibits a kibbutz, pathak vowel pattern. The verb here is shubar. He was smashed. Notice the kibbutz under the shin and the pathak under the beit. The next stem is the hifhil stem. It exhibits a he hiric prefix and a hiric yod stem vowel. The verb in this example is himlik, he heard. Notice the he hiric prefix before the first root consonant, which is the main, and the hiric yod associated with the lamed. The next stem is the hofal stem. It exhibits a he kametz hatuf prefix and a pathak stem vowel. The verb example here is hom lak, he was heard. Notice the he kametz hatuf prefix before the main and the pathak under the lamed. And finally, we have the hithpael stem, which exhibits a he hiric tav prefix and a sere stem vowel. The verb example is hithchaber, he hid himself, with the he hiric tav prefix and a tsere under the beit.